see.
Yeah. Ooh, that's really loud. Hi everyone, how are you? I'm Rana Alamuddin. I'm a Lebanese actress, TV host, and founder of Baynek, of an online platform for the multifaceted Arab woman on a mission to self-realize. Thank you, Trowers. Thank you, Mariam at Afkarech, for having me here. I feel very privileged to be considered as someone who's achieved something special. I'm not sure if it's the case, really. I think all of us have achieved so many things in our personal journey. But if I look back at my journey and I look at how I still operate in my life today, I think that the common thread, or what I feel proud of, is that I always follow my intuition. I trust a voice that guides me, and it's an inner voice, but it's also a larger calling, and I really believe that they are linked, that our dreams are linked to our destiny. And if we can trust ourselves enough and follow that voice, we click into our life purpose. And that's when miracles really start happening. And I think what you were saying, MJ, is I think you're clicked in your life purpose. And probably all the women here are clicked with their life purpose, and that changes everything. I was born to a diplomat father and a sociologist mother. I lived all over the world because of my dad's profession. I was born in New York. I lived in, Bahrain is the 9th country I live in, I think, and I don't think it might not be the last one, it might be, we shall see. I speak 5 languages, so I feel very fortunate that I really do feel like a citizen of the world, not in the pretentious sense or like it sounds cool, but I really feel that wherever I go, I connect with people. The first part of my journey of realizing that my intuition was there to guide me is when I was 19 years old. I was at a birthday party in Beirut, and I turn and I see a young man dancing in the corner at the birthday party, and I had a revelation. It was like a 3-bullet point presentation that dropped in front of me, and it said, "This is your husband. This man is dangerous for you, but in a good way," between brackets, "and this man is going to turn your life upside down." And then and there at 19, I knew that this was going to be my husband. And it was a long journey until we really got married. He asked me to marry him when I was 20, and I said yes, but let me convince my parents first, because he was from a different religion, and I knew it was a red line ever since I was a very young girl that you will not marry outside of the religion. And it took us 7 years to get married, and my parents had it approved. So it was, we eloped. We eloped to Cyprus because there's no civil marriage in Lebanon, and we got married there. And that was the beginning of a journey of me trusting my intuition as not something that was crazy. Because usually our intuition will tell us things that are not logical. And it's very scary to trust something that's not logical. It's very scary to trust something that doesn't conform to all the norms. After we got married, they met him, my parents met him, they adored him, and they changed their minds. And that was for me confirmation that that inner voice doesn't lie. The second time I felt my intuition guided me was when I decided that I wanted to be an actress in Hollywood. And I was in Beirut, and I had a really good job. I had graduated from university. I had a good job. I was a TV host. I made nice money. I drove my dad's really fancy car. I lived in a great neighborhood. Everything was perfect on paper, and yet I felt a longing inside of me that it wasn't enough. There was something. I had a dream. There was something that I needed to do, and I was afraid to. And my fiance, who's now my husband, he's the one who encouraged me to go. He's like, "I'll do whatever it takes to support you. I want you to live your dream, even if that means that we're going to be separated. I want you to do that." And I did take the leap, and I left my comfort zone. That was, I think, my first experience, truly leaving my comfort zone and struggling. I went from really being very comfortable in my lifestyle to having to count my dollars for parking and crying in my car because I got a ticket, because I would try to not pay the $3 for parking, so I would park somewhere on the street and be like, "Oh, I'm so smart, I saved $3, and then I would get a parking violation that was huge, and I'd start crying in my car. So I really went from, And for me, it paid off a lot in the sense of confidence. My parents were against it. They were very worried because, as most of you know, in the Arab world, being an actress is quite frowned upon. It's not considered at all a respectable job. And I come from a good family, respectable family and all of that, and they couldn't understand why on earth would you leave all these respectable criteria to go be an actress in Hollywood. Who does that? Why? Why would you go struggle? Why would you go put yourself at risk? Because they thought that it was risky, which, truth be told, I didn't have issues of sexual harassment over there. I did in the Arab world in my own country, but not in Hollywood. I ended up really forging my path, believing that I had to pursue this. I felt a need to self-realize. I felt a need that there was something I had to explore beyond the umbilical cord with my parents and with my family, that there was something I needed to experience as an individual, to grow as a person. And for me, it was a very big thing, and I think in the Arab world, we all experience it as women. There's a fear of branching out on our own. There's a fear of not conforming. There's a fear of upsetting. We're always told, don't upset your mom, don't upset your dad, don't upset your family, don't upset the system. And I'm not advocating upsetting or for the sake of upsetting, but I think what I'm saying is we lose touch with that inner voice, and we lose touch with that direction and the purpose, because the purpose comes from that individuality. And I hung in there, and I ended up working. I did TV. I acted in shows like CSI Miami. I was in Sex and the City 2. I played a woman in niqab. I don't know if anybody saw that film, when the girls go in the flower shop, and yeah. And I was the first Arab actress on a soap opera, on a daytime TV series called The Young and the Restless. I don't know if anybody's familiar with The Young and the Restless, but I did that and other things. And then the dream, which I had, which I was fortunate to be able to live it, the dream started becoming a nightmare. Everything I wanted then started turning sour. I'm like, I don't like this anymore. I have anxiety. There's so much pressure to be pretty, to be thin, to be attractive, to book the job. The competition is fierce, it's scary. You're judged all the time. My profession became, for me, like being tested. It's like every day you wake up to be tested. You go somewhere so that a bunch of people look at you, people who don't know you, and they're staring you up and down, and deciding if you're good enough to be in the TV show or in the film or not. I started having anxiety, I started having panic attacks, not knowing what those were. The first time I had a panic attack, I literally thought I was going to die, like most people who have a panic attack. And then I was told I needed to take some antidepressants, which I decided not to take. I felt like I needed to figure out my journey on my own. And so then I felt that it was time to work and create from my own voice. I didn't want to be regurgitating other people's scripts. I didn't want to be doing movies for other people in Hollywood that weren't my voice. And that's when I realized I need to get back to the Middle East. I want to create a project or my own projects with my voice for my community in the Middle East. And it turned out nicely that my husband and I both wanted to come back to the Middle East. And he got offered his dream job in Saudi. So he came up to me, he's like, listen, sweetheart, I got offered my dream job, it's in Saudi, what do you think? And we thought, okay, we didn't expect that, but life adventure, and we shook hands, I remember. And we shook hands. And I was pregnant with our first child, and I didn't want to raise our daughter, our child in Hollywood, so we did move to Saudi. And overnight, my life literally changed 180 degrees, obviously, not just because of Hollywood and Saudi, but also my identity. I went from being a working actress who had a specific life and a specific type of freedom and friends and a specific sense of purpose to all of a sudden being isolated, being at home with a baby in a compound, cooking and breastfeeding and changing diapers every day and being like, okay, all day, and being like, who am I? And I literally went through a very big depression, which I'm not blaming Saudi for, of course, it was my personal journey, but it was like a very big depression, which then turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But at the time, I remember taking my laptop and Googling things like, I don't know who I am anymore, enter. Symptoms of bipolar disorder, enter. And my sister is a psychologist and a researcher in New York, and I would call her, I'm like, Diane, I have bipolar. She's like, no, you don't. I'm like, yes, I do. Look all the symptoms online, I have them all. She's like, You went through a life transition. We all have symptoms from all types of like disorders. And my experience there was very drastic, and it was very humbling, and it was exactly what I needed to wake up and to understand as a woman what it feels like to be isolated and how we need a community, a sisterhood. And that's thanks to my experience in Saudi and thanks to that depression which lasted like for over 3 years. That's when I had the idea of Baynek, my online platform and conversation series. That's when I realized I wanted to create a safe space of non-judgment for women to come together and be able to share their voice, their stories authentically without fear of shaming or blaming. And so I started with a conversation series with Oscar-nominated filmmaker Nadine Labaki. You should watch her latest film, Kafarnahum, which is mind-blowing. We taped a conversation, which is not an interview, it's truly a conversation between two women who are barefoot on a couch talking about things that women talk about as girlfriends together, from motherhood to body image, to depression, to spirituality, to ambition, to fear of failure. And we officially launched in September, this September, and it's been growing organically with women from all over the Arab world, sharing in campaigns, talking about guilt, talking about fear, talking about their mistakes, and how they want to self-forgive. And it's been a very beautiful journey, and that's when I realized that my life purpose was linked to that, and it wasn't being an actress. And I still am an actress, and I still do films, but that's when I realized that that's not why I'm here. Being part of a movement for and by women is why I'm here. I also believe that cultivating a daily practice of awareness and mindfulness and a connection with the divine is a huge part of success. That's how I view it. And you were saying something, Mariam, that I really love. You said defining success on our own terms. Success is very different for each woman. We have, it looks different for each one of us, but I believe that being connected and being guided to a higher power, to divine source, gives you the answers that you can't find on your own. It fills in the doubts. I know, sometimes I'll meditate and I'll ask a question and I will get the answer. So I believe for me now, cultivating that daily practice, I meditate every day, I do transcendental meditation, I pray in my own way. I'm not religious, I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious. But the more I cultivate that daily practice, the more I feel it anchors me with who I am, and it anchors me and it connects me to divine presence. And that's something that nobody can take away from us. And I really love that I know that no matter what happens and what life might bring, nobody can take away my connection to self and to the divine. Thank you.